drinking people. Today is Saturday, November 13th, winding up another great week here at the Wine Watch, getting ready for the holiday rush. And you know what that means, folks. A lot of celebrations going on, a lot of parties. And hey, that's what I'm trying to sell you today. One of our big parties, the biggest party we do all year, our champagne tasting right here at Progresso Plaza. We've got over 50 champagnes and sparkling wines that we are going to be popping the cork on tonight. And we've got a lot of help. We've got, 10 suppliers this year pouring. For those of you that have questions, hey, what is the difference between champagne and sparkling wine? And why does Don Ho call Corbel champagne from California? I thought champagne could only come from France. Well, that's correct, actually. And you know the reason why Corbel people can call their wine champagne? Because we got the big guns in the United States of America. That's right, folks. We can do whatever the frickin' hell we want to. But most people do not use the term champagne on a bottle of California sparkling wine anymore. Most of the champagne, the great sparkling wine houses are actually owned by these champagne firms in France. And that is one of the names that they hold sacred in France. And the reason why we can legally use it in the international community, or actually we could up until the last few years when they banned it, was because we didn't sign that portion of the Treaty of Versailles that left everything sacred, like these names Port, Bordeaux, and Burgundy. Why? What was going on in this country at that time? Prohibition, folks. We don't think it's a good idea to drink. You heathens over there in Europe, you drink, you sign that portion of the treaty. We Americans are not going to sign it. All right, we know what happened shortly after that. Prohibition was repealed, and we've got some lovely alcoholic beverages flowing again in this country. And the main difference between champagne and sparkling wine, or method champenoise sparkling wine, is where it's from. Champagne is a region in France very close to Paris. The reason why its wines became famous was because of its proximity to this major city in France. And these wines, over the course of a couple hundred years, developed into the product that is champagne. And the big difference you notice just by looking at a bottle of fine method champenoise or champagne is the tiny bubbles. Okay, because what gets those little bubbles in there? Well, there's a number of ways you can get the bubbles in the bottle. Just like in soda pop, you can just add carbonation to it. That's something you would find in a product like Cold Duck. That will give you a wicked hangover. Okay, the finest way to make sparkling wine is for it to undergo that second fermentation in the actual bottle that you're drinking out of it. That's right, folks. After they make the cuvee, the blend, as most non-vintage champagnes are a blend of a couple different vintages, thus the term non-vintage. The wine is about 11% alcohol. They add a little sugar and a little yeast. And we know that's a basic alcoholic fermentation to this bottle. So what does it do? It kicks up the alcohol. They put a closure on it to capture the carbon dioxide, which is something in most alcoholic fermentation situations they just let go out into the atmosphere, and boom, you've captured the little tiny bubbles in this bottle. All right, and then some of these wines will sit on tirage or on the lees for a period of years before they're disgorged. Most non-vintage champagnes are just a few months, 6 or 8 months, and they're released, they're aged in the cellar usually 2 to 3 years before they're released. A lot of the non-vintage bruts today are 2006 base, with the 2005 and maybe a little bit of 2004 in the blends, as were the Billicart wines with Antoine Billicart, was just in the store last week. Well, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of ways you can get these bubbles into the bottle. Prosecco, a very popular sparkling wine, which we'll have some Prosecco here, that is usually not made with this method, usually made with a finer method than just soda pop. That's called the transfer method. And then, well, that's pretty much what we start with here. We don't have any wines that are just injected with carbon dioxide like they do soda pop or Cold Duck, for God's sake. We have got an incredible lineup of champagnes for you this evening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're like 10 suppliers coming in, as I mentioned before. And we have got a great menu for this evening. Of course, we'll be serving caviar with Bellinis, our traditional, with all the traditional accoutrements. And then we've got a lot of great stuff on the menu. Check it out on today's email. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasone, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.